Hello again, everybody. I'm Meteorologist Scott Dorval. It's Week 10 in the NFL, and how is weather going to affect some of the games across the country? Well, not too much is happening weather-wise. We've had some pretty dry weather as we've gone through this football season. There's a chance of some colder weather and some wind coming in from the north here, and I do expect a couple of locations that could be affected by the weather here, especially Green Bay with the coldest, windiest conditions, and then even Chicago with the gust picking up and temperatures on the chilly side as well. Pretty typical to have cold, blustery conditions, but let's see how the quarterbacks are going to fare and how the over-under on the points typically is in weather conditions like this. Let's start now with Aaron Rodgers and stats like in the weather we're going to have this weekend. So after pulling up Rodgers' stats here with weather conditions like I expect, 35 degrees or colder and a wind speed of at least 15 miles per hour, there's been 7 games of the 174 games he's played in the last 10 seasons here. And typically he's thrown for 270 yards plus. In weather conditions like this, it's around 250. So it is down just a little bit. Touchdown-wise, pretty much the same, down a hair. And interceptions on the average goes from 0.5 to 0.7. So something you may want to consider in playing Rodgers. Doesn't seem to affect him too much. Let's take a look now at the total game points from 2008 to 2018 of almost 3,000 games. The average total points is 45 points. And you see it down to 42.1 when we have wind conditions like this. So for both Chicago and for Green Bay, similar conditions here. We might have an over-under that's just a little bit on the lower side here. And then let's move on and take a look at what's happening under the dome. Drew Brees, of course, is an amazing quarterback, and of 185 games, he's averages over 300 yards passing. It's very similar when you take a look. This is every game here. But when conditions are basically dome conditions, when he's playing in the really nice weather, it's very similar. 310 yards, 2.3 touchdowns on average, and the interception rate is low. So he does real well in the dome, as you'd expect most quarterbacks will do. How about Matthew Stafford? He's coming into Chicago. He's got that cold weather he's got to deal with. For all games in these weather conditions here for Matthew Stafford, 144 games, he's passing about 275 yards average passing with 1.7 touchdowns. Now that's 144 games. There's only been 3 games that he has played in the last 10 seasons that have had a greater than 15 mile per hour wind and less than 40 degrees. But how's he doing? Amazing. 372 yards passing, average touchdowns over 3, and again, interceptions less than 1. You can even look at each game here and take a look. And we're talking against Chicago as well. If you look back at November 19, 2017, they won this game 27-24. He threw 2 touchdowns, 300 yards passing here. We can break it down and take a look at another game against Chicago where Detroit ends up winning here. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions with a wind speed of 51 miles an hour and a temperature of 31. So he did very well in these conditions. And how about this against Green Bay? You may have lost the game, but he threw 5 touchdown passes, did throw a couple of picks, 520 yards. Pretty impressive stats for Matthew Stafford. So there are just a few examples of what you can do with overunderfantasyweather.com. Have you decided who you're going to start at quarterback this week? The weather may affect how they're throwing the ball, and if you want to see their track record back 10 years, you can do it right here at overunderfantasyweather.com. This is Week 10. We'll be back again next week.